The next thing we should fix for tablets and for mobile phones is this menu mess that we have going on here. The button looks great. It works well. We have a menu that pops up here, but unfortunately this hover state is not good. We can't read the link that's there underneath of this. And then these things with secondary navigation show up as drop-down menus. So what we need to do now is we need to write a style that will have all of my navigation display on this page all at once. I just want to spell out all of the navigation here without the drop-down menus. I want it to appear all at once when I click the button. I don't want things to appear when I roll over them or anything else. Remember that people who are going to be surfing with tablets and with phones are going to be using their finger for navigation. So you want to make sure you have a big clickable area that their fat little fingers can go in and click on and not click on something else by mistake. And these drop-down kind of things aren't really conducive to working in a mobile sort of environment. So I'm going to go ahead and restyle this specifically for this size screen and smaller. The breakpoint, and breakpoints are that point where the layout of the screen changes. So for a while the screen has a navigation bar on it, and then somewhere right around in here, boom, the navigation bar goes away. Where that value occurs for the width of this window is called a breakpoint in media queries. And that breakpoint happens at 979 pixels. This is actually set in the back end with Bootstrap. We'll be taking a look at what those values are exactly later. So what I want to do is I want to say for 979 pixels and smaller, because this button is going to be present for 979 pixels and smaller. Then I want to have something happen, and that is I want my menus to display differently at screen width smaller than 979 pixels. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So here in Dreamweaver, I'm in my custom style sheet, and if we scroll down to the navbar drop-down code that we took from Protostar here, the very first style is nav.navchild, and this is responsible for most of the functionality behind those drop-down menus that we have inside of our website. What I want to do now is I want to take this style and I need to adapt it for the screen widths of 979 pixels and smaller. So what I'm going to do is start by just copying this style and copy. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my web page, and I'm going to add a media query somewhere around line 255 here. And the way to do that is to say @media, and then I'm going to put in parentheses max-width of 979 pixels. So what I've just said is if the screen width is 979 pixels or less, no wider than 979 pixels, then do what's inside of these particular curly brackets. So inside of this media query here, I'm going to paste that style that I just copied from my style sheet. And I'm going to make some changes about how this style is put together. So first of all, the drop-downs are mostly controlled by the first 5 or 6 styles here. The position of absolute, we're going to change to static. Remember, all HTML elements have a position of static by default. You override these to absolute or relative as part of your CSS positioning. The top and left values are only useful if you're using absolute or relative positioning, so we can get rid of these and change these to auto, and the left will be auto. The z-index we can ignore, and display none. So of course the drop-down menus are not going to display until you roll your mouse over some link, and then they do display. We want the drop-down menus displaying all of the time, so I'm going to change this display none to a display block. And these drop-down menus are floated right now. They're floated left. I don't want them floated at all, so I'm going to change this to a float of none. The next few items have to do with the styling of these links in terms of minimum widths, paddings, margins, list style. You can take those out or leave them in, whatever you like to do. I'm just going to ignore them. Then I come to my background color. And here with my background color, right now it's that dark teal color. I would like that background color on these menus to be transparent. So I'm going to change this to transparent. Then I have a bunch of borders. On my old drop-down menus, there was a line that went around the drop-down menu, along with some rounded corners and a drop shadow. That's what all this next bunch of code is. And what I've found is it's best to just zero all of this out. And so instead of a border with a width of 1 pixel, I'll just say it has 0 pixel width. Instead of these rounded corner type of things that are going on here, I'm just going to set those to 0 also. And then here with the drop shadows, I'm going to set these numbers here from 5 and 10 pixels to 0 and 0 pixels. And there we go. So that is all of that particular styling. I've basically zeroed out all of the borders, all the rounded corners, and all of the drop shadows. You, of course, can do whatever you like with your styling, but this is the direction I'm going here. I'm going to save my style sheet, and now when I go into Firefox and I hit refresh and click my down button here, I can now see my menu displayed on this page. You can see the links here. I've still got these nice text here. I can roll over it. It turns orange. And it's looking better. The next thing I need to fix is I'd like to change the font size for these smaller text here. Right now it's kind of tiny. I'd like to make it a little bit bigger so it's easy to click on. So in Dreamweaver, at the end of my first style here, I'm going to add the style of nav, ul.nav-child. A. So in other words, for my links that occur in my secondary navigation, I would like to have a font-size of 16 pixels. And then I'm going to address the problem of that white-on-white hover state that we have there. There's a white, big pill sort of background and white text. So I'm going to change that. The style is navbar.nav li a :focus, comma, .navbar .nav li a :hover. And we're going to set this to have a background color of transparent. Go ahead and save that. And if we take a look at our website, refresh, hit our down button again. Now I have text that's a little bit bigger here. It'll probably be easier to handle with a finger, trying to roll my finger over those links. And the big bubble highlighting the top level navigation as I roll over it is now gone. So that's all good. The last thing I need to get rid of are those funny little triangles. And if you recall, that little triangle styling happened back up here again inside of the styles that were written for the drop-down menus. They were the nav-child before, and nav-child after. There was a bunch of styling associated with these. I just don't want them to display anymore. So I am going to take this style, nav-child before, down here in my media query. And I'm going to add some styling here. And what I'm going to say is nav-child before, comma, and nav-child after, display, none. And save that. Now when I come back and I refresh my web page, and I hit my down button here, those little triangles that appear on the top are no longer there. So now I can roll my mouse over these links. It's a much easier to read menu. It looks good, and it should be easy to use on a tablet or a phone now that my links are big enough that I should be able to select those individually.